Hill. I mean, we just heard from Hakeem Jeffries. We're not going to help you through this. This is your mess. We worked hard on a deal. This is a 1,500-page bill that we all agreed on. And then the rug got pulled out because Elon Musk sent out a few tweets yesterday and Donald Trump threatened some primaries. So what are the chances now of a government shutdown at midnight tomorrow?
Well, what's next is that House Republican leadership, specifically Mike Johnson, the Speaker, has got to announce his plan of action. He's got to find a way to get enough votes to pass something through the House of Representatives, and it's almost certainly going to require Democratic support. House Republicans never get the votes within their own ranks to keep the government funded. There are too many rebels on the right who don't want to pass these funding bills. So he's going to need Democrats one way or the other. And then, of course, there's a Democratic-controlled Senate. So there's really no way around that. As far as the debt limit issue is concerned, again, this comes randomly out of right field from Donald Trump. But I did hear from one House Democratic lawmaker last night who said the one way that Democrats would engage on this issue is if Republicans offered to abolish the debt limit, not just increase it, take it completely off the table, remove this law where Congress has to completely, vote separately to authorize the spending that it itself has forced the government to engage in. Take it off the table. Don't allow anyone to use it hostage against a future president. That's not something Republicans have engaged on in the past. But right now, it's a pretty dire situation where there's no plan B, and the government is set to shut down tomorrow at midnight. The odds of it just went way up, Willie.
And clearly this changes by the minute. So we'll keep an eye on the whims of Elon Musk and Donald Trump to see where this is headed. Sahil, meanwhile, you've got some new reporting this morning on Donald Trump as he looks at these open posts in his administration, picking people he has supported in the past but who have lost elections. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, it's an interesting little trend we spotted. A lot of Donald Trump's personnel picks to stock his administration, including for some important jobs, some plum jobs, are Republicans who ran their own races in recent years and lost while embracing the Trump MAGA brand. Take a look at some of these names here. There's David Perdue, the former Georgia senator, who's now been chosen for ambassador to China. Kelly Loeffler, in the same cycle as Perdue, lost. She's been chosen to lead the Small Business Administration. Herschel Walker in Georgia, 2 years later, Trump's handpicked choice, lost to Raphael Warnock. He's been chosen for ambassador to the Bahamas. Mehmet Oz, Pennsylvania Senate candidate, lost his race, chosen to lead CMS. Kari Lake, who managed to lose a governor's race and a Senate race in Arizona in the span of 2 years, will run the Voice of America. Lori Chavez DeRemer, the Oregon Republican, has been chosen for labor secretary. She was attacked by her Democratic opponent of being too close to Trump in the last election, ended up losing. Doug Collins, who lost to Georgia jungle primary to Loeffler way back in 2020, has been chosen to run the Department of Veterans Affairs. And then to a lesser extent here with this phenomenon, Lee Zeldin in New York, he actually overperformed in 2022, not underperformed while running close to Trump, but he did lose his race by 7 points. He's been chosen to lead the EPA. So what's going on here? A Trump transition official who's close to this process told my co-author for this, Matt Dixon, quote, "He values loyalty, hard stop. At times beyond all else. We were not surprised by anyone you mentioned was picked," and that source went on to say he's trying to change Washington and wants people to know and wants people who he knows he can trust. And Democrats on the other end are asking, why is Trump stocking his administration with electoral losers? With some of these people, at least, they are wondering, are they really the best and the brightest, or is Trump simply rewarding his loyalists and trying to make them whole after they, in some cases, might have sacrificed their electoral careers to support him?
Yes, let me answer. It's the latter. Rewarding loyalty, for sure. NBC's Sahil Kapoor, fascinating new piece, NBCnews.com to read through it. Sahil, thanks so much. John, Herschel Walker getting a lot of mileage out of those couple of seasons with the New Jersey Generals in the 1980s. That relationship he built with Donald Trump back then, now landing him in the Bahamas.
Yeah, with no obvious ties to that island whatsoever or experience with any sort of international diplomacy. But as I'll credit my brother for this joke here, that, let's remember, of course, Herschel Walker, part of a famous NFL trade with so much going in the other direction. Look, if he goes to the Bahamas, think about the Bahamas is sending back. Maybe you part of our rebuilding program here for Herschel Walker. But Mike, this is, it's not a surprise here, jokes aside. Loyalists and fundraisers, that's who gets ambassador posts. But it does seem like for Trump in particular, there are some raising eyebrows, not just Herschel Walker, but also Jared Kushner's father.
I'm getting a bit resentful of attacks on Herschel Walker. That man ran for over 7,000 yards in the National Football League.
He had a great career.
What else do you need to be ambassador to the Bahamas?
I think it's more about Georgia. You know, national championship, Heisman
all back
Trophy.
to the SEC.
Go Dogs. All right, let's get back to Washington. Another example here of House Republicans following Donald Trump's lead on just about everything is the report released earlier this week from Republican lawmakers recommending former Congresswoman Liz Cheney be investigated, possibly even face criminal prosecution for her role sitting on the January 6th Select Committee, which of course looked into Donald Trump and the attack on the Capitol. Trump posted about the report after its release, writing, "Cheney could be in a lot of trouble," while also thanking Republican Congressman Barry Loudermilk of Georgia, who spearheaded the report for, quote, "a job well done." That comes after Trump told NBC's Kristen Welker that Cheney and other members of the January 6th Select Committee should be jailed.
Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and, creeps. Honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think
I think
should
everybody
go to jail.
anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
When you say that,
On
it carries
strengthening the
weight, though. You've tapped these people to lead the Justice Department and FBI.
They can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Biden can give him a pardon if he wants to, and maybe he should.
Said they should be in jail. Let's bring in NBC News national security editor David Rowe. David, good morning. You've been covering the story closely. So to catch our viewers up, what exactly was this referral from Barry Loudermilk and the Republicans looking into this question that Donald Trump has urged them to look into?
So it's an escalation. And it's interesting that you played that clip from the interview. Before that interview, the focus in Trump circles was calls for Jack Smith, the special counsel, to be investigated, and Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, who went after Trump civilly. After that interview, you have this announcement from House Republicans, and it's extraordinary. It's one House Republican saying that she violated multiple federal laws and explicitly calling for an FBI investigation of Liz Cheney. The evidence of this is thin or non-existent. This all surrounds Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony. She changed lawyers. She was first represented by Stefan Passantino, who was paid by the Trump organization or by people in Trump's circle to represent her. She got new lawyers and she testified before the committee. Her current lawyer put out a statement saying she wanted to testify. This new lawyer helped her do that, and there's nothing improper here at all.
So what happens from here then? I mean, if there's no evidence, they can still tie people up and then continue their investigations and make people hire lawyers. And remember, Cassidy Hutchinson was a key witness in those hearings. She was literally in the room on January 6th and in many ways showed that a 24-year-old staffer was the adult in the room as everyone else looked the other way. So what happens from here?
So this now puts the focus on Trump's nominee to be the director of the FBI, Kash Patel. I've talked about this report before. I've read this entire memoir he wrote about his years helping expose what he calls the deep state. And he talks about Liz Cheney and names about 60 other people, including her, to be current members of the deep state. He says they committed crimes. These include people like Bill Barr, people like Pat Cipollone, Republicans.
What are the crimes? When he used the word crimes, what is he talking about?
That's the challenge of the book. And there is a perception, again, on Republicans that all these investigations against Trump were completely unjustified, from the Trump-Russia investigation to him keeping classified documents to his role on January 6th. Democrats obviously disagree. But the book is just full of claims that these 60 people, he names them, Republicans and Democrats, Joe Biden on the Democratic side, Kamala Harris, and again, Bill Barr, Republicans like that, have committed crimes. And so I think Kash Patel, if confirmed by the Senate, will investigate Liz Cheney.
But I think it's important for us to underscore here, there is no evidence, none, that any crime was committed by any of these individuals. And Jen Psaki, Kash Patel has sort of flown under the radar with so much scrutiny on some of Trump's other picks, Hegseth, Gabbard, Kennedy, and the like. I expect that will change come confirmation hearings. But weigh in here on what this is really about. I mean, it's about, yes, perhaps an investigation into Liz Cheney. Then they'll dream up some sort of charge. But again, we should note there's certainly no sign of it yet. But it's about intimidation. It's about tying people up. It's about not just getting retribution for what happened over the last 8 years. It's about trying to set a chilling effect for the next 4, saying, hey, don't investigate us or we'll come after you.
It's about prompting people to be obedient in advance. And we've heard many people who are historians talk about that, but that's what we're seeing across the board here. And just to go back to the Liz Cheney piece here and Kash Patel, it's not only that there hasn't been a lot of criticism, it has been basically silent in terms of any concern expressed by Republicans in the Senate about the Kash Patel nomination to lead the FBI, which is a 10-year term. And that is not a partisan position. It's not one that typically, obviously, there's nominated by Democrats or Republicans, but they serve over the course of multiple administrations of parties for a reason. And this is a guy, to David's point, who has literally an enemies list in his book that is baseless. So there has been no real opposition. We'll see what happens and if there's changes with the hearings. The last piece I would just note is that there's been a lot of talk about preemptive pardons, and the more Trump and people around him mention this, the more it seems like a good idea. But even if a big list of people is on a preemptive pardon list, they can still be investigated. They can still be hauled in front of Congress, which is run by Republicans. They can still have their names tarnished. They can still be forced to spend tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, in legal fees. And part of this is tying up these voices, intimidating people, and again, forcing people to be obedient in advance, which should be chilling to people. It's not just the media, it's voices of opposition within the Republican Party, obviously Democrats, outside groups. That's the clear goal here, threatening, creating fear as a form of silencing people.
So, David, if Jen is correct, and Jen is almost always correct, if Cassidy Hutchinson got a preemptive pardon, there's still no end to her ordeal. She can still be publicly interrogated, can still be publicly humiliated by the oppositions on the committee. So there is no end to this.
In terms of Congress, absolutely. And I've talked to about a half dozen people or more who are on this list in Kash Patel's book, and they expect it to both come from Congress and come from the FBI. But it is, being investigated criminally by the federal government is a pretty overwhelming experience. It's very expensive, but it will drag on for years. And it is a message that, and Trump is very clever, like what he said in the interview where he says like, oh, they should do what they want and I'm not telling them what to do. Then he says they should go to jail. And so he's done this, for years where he kind of keeps his fingerprints off of it. But loyalists see these signals and act on them.
He doesn't have to say anything explicitly anymore. They catch the signal and they run with it. Fascinating reporting from NBC News national security reporter David Rohde. We'll continue to follow this story. David, thank you. David's new book, Where Tyranny Begins, the Justice Department, the FBI, and the War on Democracy, by the way, on sale now. Thanks, David. Jen Psaki, great to see you. Thank you as well. We'll be watching Inside with Jen Psaki Sundays at noon and Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Still ahead on Morning Joe, the suspect charged in connection with the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson could be returned to New York as soon as today. We'll get a live report from the courthouse as he is due to appear at an extradition hearing later this morning in Pennsylvania. We'll be right back.
Well, put me on the naughty list. This has never happened before. Let's see. And that, people, is why we have Target Circle 360.
Hey, dear! Don't miss anything on your list with unlimited same-day delivery.
When I was younger, my calling was to play football. But as I grew older, I realized life isn't about knocking people down. It's about lifting them up. At Ram, our calling is to build game-changing trucks. So when you find